Hi Copic in the Craft Room fans, Michelle Houghton here. I am just starting a guest designer stint with Rubbernecker Stamps, and so this video is featuring one of their images. This stamp set comes with two pieces. One has kind of a solid rubber base, and you can see that one already attached to my stamp platform. The second is a real fine line outline of details. So what I'm going to do, it's really hard with a rubber stamp to kind of line these up, and so instead of trying to really remind myself or remember where it's sitting on my stamp platform, I'm using a whiteboard marker, and I'm actually outlining that stamp because I can literally place the next one right on top of that. I've got 6 colors, Copic colors, that I'm going to use today. A couple RVs and a V. So red violets and a violet, and then some yellow greens for all the stems and leaves. So I'm going to start with a red violet 5-2, which is a very light red violet, and I'm aiming for the center of the flowers. One of the things I'm doing that you can't see is I have the packaging to the stamp kind of over to the side, because there's really no detail on this first piece. I can see obviously the outline of things, but to see kind of where the details are going to fall, I'm having to guess that a little bit because they're obviously mirrored as well, at least in the finished product, because when I flip this over and stamp it, it's going to mirror itself. So I'm kind of looking off to the side, so when my hands slow down, that's what I'm doing. I am starting with the lightest color. You'll notice as we go through, I actually don't have to do any blending though. So I've got 3 flowers and a bud, and I've started with that RV 5-2. Coming in with RV 5-5, and I'm coming from all the outer edges all the way in and on top of that RV 5-2. This third flower is a little unique in that it's to the side, and so we see kind of the petals from both sides. And so I did kind of watch again the packaging to see where that one comes across, and so the outer edge is halfway and then all the way to the edge. The V06 is going to be the last little piece, and I'm going right on top of the RV55 at this point and just hitting some of those edges, pulling that in a little bit, and right in the center of the flower. And I am guessing a little bit on that to kind of put that into the center where those details are going to happen. Next, I'm going to tackle the leaves and stems. I'm starting again with my lightest color at this point. Notice I did no blending on the petals at all. And I do light to dark, and the main reason for that is if I went in reverse, that lighter marker would pick up some of the darker color. I can do that, and it's no big deal. If I get some different color on a marker, I just scrub it off on a piece of scratch paper. So it's no biggie, but this way I don't really need to do a lot of that. If I accidentally get into that violet with this light green, I just scrub it off to the side. But if I go from light to dark, a lot of times I don't have to do very much of that cleanup. I am going to add a little bit of shading or kind of darker detail work with a YG63 and then also a YG67, but I'll just let you watch this part. while I'm coloring, let me go over the cleanup portion of this project as well. The outline stamp I can clean just like I do with a normal stamp, just with water, damp rag, stamp cleaner. The other one that I colored on, people ask this all the time. When I do this process, I will use either Copic colorless blender or an alcohol and clean that stamp really good. And then I will then clean it with a stamp cleaner that has a little bit of moisturizer to it to kind of get that stamp back in good shape and not let it dry out. So next is the fun part. This is where I want to transfer the ink. So I have a mister, just a little spray bottle filled with colorless blender solution. So that is the Copic colorless blender solution. I mist the whole area and I stamp. And go ahead and open that back up and see how I did. And this time I did great. I've got pretty even coverage. It all transferred. Sometimes I'll have a little area that I didn't get wet, and so it's really dry and doesn't transfer. All I have to do is spray that area a little bit more and stamp it again. Because it's on that stamp platform, I can do that multiple times. For this image, now I'm going to pull that original stamp up. I'm going to line up as best I can, and it's not exact, but it's going to be pretty darn close. You can see those black lines from the dry erase marker are outlining that now little outline stamp. This time I am going to use the Memento ink on the stamp, but because I'm not coloring on top of it, you could really use any stamp ink you want. It's not going to matter because I'm putting this on top of the Copic. I'm not trying to do Copic coloring with it. But my Memento is what's sitting next to me, so it is what I'm going to use. And I go ahead and stamp this right on top of what I just created. And there you go. It lined up pretty good. But I could use this one to learn how to adjust. But I got pretty darn close. And really those outlines aren't going to be totally perfect because some of the edges are going to be fuzzy with that watercolor look. And when you re-wet that Copic ink, it is going to bleed a little bit too. The one thing I didn't get quite lined up with is the center of one of those flowers. So if I try again, I will make sure to do that. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate you stopping by Copic and the Craft Room on YouTube. If you ever have any questions, please ask below about any Copic kind of things going on or questions about your Copic collection or starting one. I try to stop by regularly to answer those. Have a happy, colorful day.